What's up, guys? It's Zero here, bringing you all another episode of none other than the best podcast on the planet, that being The Dark Zone.
You know it, bro.
Dude, I'm joined by my good friend, Jeff, for episode 2 of The Dark Zone. Jeff, what's up, bro?
What's up, man? How you been?
Oh, dude, I've been outstanding. How you doing, man?
I've been doing good. Just trying to like cycle in between like a new game that came out we'll talk about and work. And it's been a good week for me.
Yeah. No, it's been definitely a good week. It's been, gosh, it's felt like a grind, you know, for sure. As is life. I mean, you know, it is what it is.
Life is always on that constant grind to get anything better.
Yeah, no, for sure. Guys, for those of you who don't know about The Dark Zone, guys, we talk about everything in the world of gaming. Plus, we give you guys some insight into what it all means. And on this episode, we've got a number of things that we're going to be talking about here. I want to start, though, Jeff. I think it's the last time that we got together and we were talking, you had a game that you were really, really excited about. And I think a lot of people were really excited about. Monster Hunter Wilds.
Yeah, that game is something special. It really is.
Yeah.
I came in because I grew up playing Monster Hunter. My first game was Monster Hunter 4, and the core aspect of Monster Hunter has not changed within the past like 20 years or so. And that's why I noticed when people were saying like, oh, the game's too easy. I'm like, well, the game formula has not changed in 20 years. It's always been go hunt big monster with big stick. That's literally it. And it's fun because you can actually, especially with wilds, like you can, as soon as you're out in the field, you actually get to watch the monsters and other creatures, endemic life, ecosystems function as they would in nature in real life. Like you'll see them pause to go get a drink of water. You'll see them go out hunting themselves. You'll see them provide for themselves. Excuse me. It's literally like you're stepping into their domain, which is such a good feeling. Not to mention the music, gas, the characters, gas, the story is amazing. All the fights are amazing.
That's awesome.
Every creature feels unique in their own way, and it just seems like it has such potential to be such a good game.
What, you know, like I know you've been, it's early in the process of Monster Hunter Wilds. Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of, you know, I've been noticing from an outside perspective looking, and I haven't played it yet, but it seems like there's a lot of mixed reaction to a number of things, but part of it is actually some of the reviews that have come out. What are your thoughts about some of this stuff? Now, I did read something where IGN gave it like a 4 out of 10, and then it changed to an 8 out of 10. You know, I'm not sure. Regardless of what some of these outlets are saying, what's your general notion of this title?
It's always been positive. Like they've never steered me wrong. They've always done something. Capcom in general has always done something that makes it feel fresh. You can go on and say the same thing with the Resident Evil series. Like it's still the same series and still the same mechanics, just keeps adding on to the story. And you could say the same thing for Monster Hunter because each Monster Hunter installment has only recently they've started implementing like story aspects into the game. And they've done an amazing job with it, with both World and Iceborne. That's a whole other different game, and it's amazing. And when it comes down to when people make reviews about the game, my best opinion is anytime you want to do deep dive into a game you like, always check with multiple different sources, because you always want to get everybody's different perspective about any game that you hear about. And if you don't want to listen to any reviews or my best solution is always just go out and play the game yourself.
Yeah. Because, you know, I got an opportunity to watch a number of streamers streaming it.
It's been blowing up.
Yeah. And from what I've watched, I mean, it looks beautiful. Like just from a graphical perspective, the environment, it's very vibrant. there's elements of it that at least maybe the streamers I was watching, maybe they weren't like super well versed in Monster Hunter, but some of them look challenging. It looks like there's an element of a challenge to it, but it's also like I said, I think what really caught my eye with this title specifically was just the vibrant colors, the different types of monsters that you're going up against. I thought it was it looks great. And I did watch the review from IGN and a number of other outlets. And it's interesting to me that it's like mixed. So my question to you is how does this, because you've put in what you said about 40 hours into it?
Probably about 40 hours
so you
already.
so you've put in about 40 hours. What would you say, like, how is this one stacking up for you versus, you know, the other previous titles?
So the thing is with Wilds, and I'm only going to be talking about World and Wilds because those two are so linked together as far as like a story aspect. When World came out, it was such a different wave because of the sheer fact of they remade all the models from scratch. Old Monster Hunter, they used PS2 graphics for like 15 odd years, and it worked. Only until World is when they started making new models. When Wilds came out, it completely abandoned the old style of monster hunting and introduced this whole new vibrant system. And not to mention the whole system with focus mode, offset attacks, my personal favorite, clashes, where you literally do a test of strength between you and the monster. Such mechanics like that is just so different from what Monster Hunter used to be, and I think it's a very nice step in the direction for what is to come.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
So your like your general notion, like so far, is that it's very positive. Like, do you think it's one of those things where you need to give it more time before, like, how this stacks up? Like in terms of, is this the greatest Monster Hunter of all time, or, you know, top two, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah, without a doubt, I have ran into a couple bit of problems, minor frame rate problems, but when I excuse me, whenever it does, the frames do kind of jank out a little for a couple. It's only for a second. It's not very long, and it usually snaps back together, no problem.
And they'll probably fix those things.
Oh yeah,
with some, you know, whether it was because did they do a day one patch?
Yes, I believe so. They did. Oh, no, they didn't. But that's because there wasn't like any game breaking problems from day one, which actually surprised me considering how many people just hopped on this game. I got kicked out because of my internet went out for a couple seconds. It took me an hour to get back in, only because of how full the servers will.
It was pretty crazy.
I was in a pretty decent long queue.
Wow. Well, that's a good thing though, man. That's awesome. I'm just so happy that you have a game like this that is, I mean, bro.
The numbers on Steam alone say how popular this game is. I think it like capped out at like 1.2 million or something like that.
Wow. That's huge, dude. That's
like
so
even
huge.
I understand it's like day one launch, but even still, like that's a big launch.
Yeah, that's a huge launch. So before we move on, let's get Jeff's. What is your, like, you know, 0 to 10 or 1 to 10 or whatever? Where would you put your rating for Monster Hunter Wilds right now?
So I would probably put it at I'm not going to say 10 because there are some problems that I do think can be fixed out. I'm not going to give it a 9 because there are some things that I personally thought was lacking about it. I'm going to probably put it like an 8.7, somewhere in that range. I don't feel like 8.5 is not enough, but probably like around like high 8.
That's a solid number, though. Yeah. That's a really solid number.
Because one of the main things that I thought was a big problem is that there aren't enough monsters, I think there could be just a smidgen more, but to see some of the old monsters that haven't seen any light in the past like 15 years is also good to see.
Killer. That's awesome.
Not to mention some of the new faces that came out with this game, too.
The what?
Some of the new faces, some of like the new monsters that came out with this generation.
Sweet.
So That's just where I stand with that. It's just I think there could be a little bit more, but I do know that they have free title updates where they release new monsters throughout the year, and then they have a big DLC that comes out with like a whole new roster.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. It's definitely, I mean, 8.7, that's something to build on.
Yeah.
I mean, that's better than what Cyberpunk started with.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's
even when Cyberpunk first out, I'll probably say that's probably still a 7.
yeah. I'll die on the hill that I still really I enjoyed it, even though there was at times it was unplayable. Underneath all the shit, there was something special.
Oh yeah.
But the question is for all of you guys, what do you guys think about Monster Hunter Wilds? Let us know in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear what your guys' early, just reactions are to this title. Let us know. Let's have a real conversation about it.
Yeah, I'd love to see what you guys come up in the comments about it.
Yeah. With that down and out of the way, let's move on to this, shall we, guys? Jeff, a game that I spent, so many long hours playing, hundreds of hours playing. And it was probably one of the first games I ever did this, and it was on the original Xbox. And it was actually the first title that my buddy and we went to GameStop. We were under, you have to be like 17 or older to get... To get like an M-rated game.
I think it depends on
what was
state.
it?
I think it depends on state.
It was 17 or 18. I can't quite remember.
Yeah.
But regardless, we were underage. And we dressed up my buddy to look older than he was. And he goes in there to go and get none other than Max Payne. And we go in there, and I'm acting like, because I looked way younger. Like it would have been a dead giveaway.
Was this just like the typical situation of y'all stacked on top of each other with a trench coat?
No, definitely not that.
Or did you get like a dollar store mustache?
No, we gave him, we got him like, we went to like TJ Maxx or Goodwill or something, got him like a leather jacket, made like just, it was funny, dude. But anyways, went in there, obviously we didn't have, IDs and stuff like this, but he was able to get a copy of Max Payne 1 and 2. And on the original Xbox, they didn't card him, which is funny.
That is funny.
But we ended up, the first night we played, I don't know, it was close to about halfway through the first Max Payne. Second, it was like on a weekend. We had like a long weekend where we beat both games. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget, man, after I beat the first and the second Max Payne games, went back through, I played them a few times over, just absolutely loved Max Payne. The story, the dark, the grittiness of it kind of had this, the first couple of games had more of this, almost like a comic book feel, the way that they would have these different cinematics. It was like this, almost like this comic series, and it was, or dark comic, and bullet time and the action, but just like the story was unreal. Well, years later, we get Max Payne 3 from Rockstar. Rockstar gets the rights to Max Payne, and they make Max Payne 3, and I'm not going to say it was a bad game, but I felt like Rockstar kind of created this more bright, vibrant, almost like GTA style within Max Payne. Not saying it was terrible, but it just didn't have that darkness, that grittiness that the first two had. Well, we've been wondering if there was going to be a Max Payne 4 at some point, if Rockstar was going to do that. And lo and behold, the guys who did the first two, Remedy, also known for like Control, Alan Wake, they got the rights, or they were able to get the license to do remakes on the first two Max Payne titles from Rockstar, which, by the way, Rockstar is fully funding the project, which is incredible.
Yeah, that's good.
I wish that more of these studios would do this. If they, you know what I mean? If you have an IP and you're not using it, license it out, especially if it's like a very coveted, title or franchise.
Yeah.
License it out. Do a company like an indie developer or just a development company that is very passionate about the titles.
Yeah.
And I love that Rockstar is doing this. But anyways, they're making these remakes, and they're they're certainly making progress at this point in time. I wanted to talk to you though. Do you have a history with Max Payne at all? Like, did you ever play the originals or Max Payne 3? And what are your thoughts about them? Putting together like this remake of the first two.
So when it comes to Max Payne, I know nothing about the game. I haven't played them. I've only seen either memes or people talk about how good it was, how like it had one of the most. I've only seen like a couple clips of the bullet time, and for what I've seen, it did look pretty cool. Just something. It felt. It definitely left an impression on a lot of people. And now that I know there's remakes coming out, I'm actually excited to see what I might try them out myself.
Yeah, dude, I gotta tell you, man, it's Max Payne 3 when it came out from Rockstar, they tried to do multiplayer. And we talk about multiplayer a lot. We've talked a lot on the Dark Zone episode 1, a lot about multiplayer like Cyberpunk Online, GTA Online, all these different games. Max Payne is a title, in my opinion, that should not have a multiplayer. And I know why they were thinking it. They were like, oh, bullet time, this and that. It would be really cool to have this as a multiplayer experience. It does not, in my personal opinion, doesn't work as a multiplayer experience. Max Payne is a story-driven, very dark, very gritty, kind of it reminds me of like, a lot of those like crime, like mobster movies, similar like Goodfellas and The Sopranos show and
Yeah.
Godfather and stuff, but a very, very dark story. I'm so excited though about these remakes because it was kind of, for me, growing up, they were a couple of titles that I wasn't necessarily allowed to play, but snuck it, that, even us getting the game and stuff, there's like this story behind the whole thing for me and my experience with it. And so I would definitely challenge you, man. The first two games, I'm not sure if they're on anything because I mean they were on the original Xbox. So
I imagine they're probably still in the store.
They might be, but I'm sure that you can play them in some capacity or another. I don't know if it's on the Xbox Series S or X. I have no idea, but this is what's really interesting. Remedy comes out and they say that when they got the license to do the remakes, they had mentioned, or they were being interviewed, and it was brought up like what they thought about Max Payne 3 that Rockstar did. And they said, it's cool for what it is, but it's not the direction at all that we were going to take this series. So you have the first game, second game was called Max Payne, The Fall of Max Payne. The third one, they already had kind of the idea in their head was going to be called The Heat of Max Payne. And what they were doing, Jeff, was they were going to have each game in a different, during a different season in New York City. So you had the first one was like the winter, and they were going to do one in the spring, fall, summer, and they wanted to create 4 games.
Yeah.
So I loved this concept of this, and it's your classic revenge tale. These mobsters kill Max Payne's family, and he goes after them, and he goes after all of them. And so it is an absolute, the story though is so rich. It's absolutely incredible. The voice of Max Payne was Sam Lake. He's actually in Alan Wake as well. And I'm sure he's working at Remedy. And so I'm assuming that he is going to probably portray Max Payne once again in these next 2 remakes. Yeah. What I think this leads to though is if they knocked these out of the park, because Remedy really knows Max Payne, I believe, and I'm hoping that Rockstar's cool with them being the ones to continue the franchise moving forward. Because Rockstar has their hands full with Red Dead and GTA. Yeah. Who knows if they're going to do an LA Noire 2 or a Bully 2 Manhunt. I mean, I don't know.
I know people have been craving more Bully.
Yeah. Do you think they would maybe do something like that? Or?
I could totally see it. Or at least a modernized remake of the first game. Because I know the first game was funny. It was good, had so many like good mechanics in it, so many funny missions. I can totally see them making an entire remake based off of Bully, or even a sequel. I can totally see that happening.
And it fits with Rockstar. I mean,
Yeah.
the controversial,
Yeah.
the controversial like titles that they created. It always
Yeah, they
happens.
don't care. They just do what they want.
Yeah. But I would definitely, man, when these remakes come out, because I love that we're getting more and more remakes. Like, we got Max Payne,
Yeah.
Splinter Cell. I mean, now Splinter Cell is a whole nother thing. I mean, that was something that actually the Splinter Cell remake got announced back in like 2021. Have not seen it at this point in time, and so or really any further information from Ubisoft. So I'm hoping that we're able to get the Splinter Cell remake. And what I'm really hoping for is that these remakes, like the Max Payne remakes, the Splinter Cell remake, I hope it greenlights further entries in these franchises.
Yeah. Because when was the last Metal Gear game or Metal Gear Solid game? Wasn't it like a?
That's a good question. I don't, but
The
they do.
last
They
one-
have another one coming. Is it a remake that's coming out?
I believe it is a remake that's coming out, but the last Metal Gear game I remember coming out was like Metal Gear Survival, which was kind of like a horde, was kind of like a horde shooter or something like that. I played the beta. It was all right.
I heard a lot. I didn't play it. I heard a lot of people say it was trash.
I enjoyed the beta because I've never played a Metal Gear game before.
Yeah.
And the only thing that I'll say that was really cool about it was when you were in the main menu, your character was still in like this big, wide open white room. And you had to physically use your camera as like a mouse to go through the menu. It was actually pretty interesting.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I think like the last one that came out was like the first one, or maybe it was I forget. I think it was. I know the last game that came out in the Metal Gear Solid franchise was definitely one that Hideo Kojima did not work on, did not have his handprint all over. Because when he did the original Metal Gear games, man, he was crushing it. Snake Eater is such a iconic character now in gaming. I mean, I think he's in a number of other. He's had like different like Easter eggs and things of that nature in a bunch of different other games.
Yeah.
And so I am very excited about whatever they have coming out. If it's a remake or the graphics look unreal.
Oh yeah, I saw some clips of it. It looks good.
Yeah, it looks
really good.
Yeah, it looks unreal. So I think it's important.
Is it Unreal 5?
The engine?
Yeah, I'm fucking with you. I'm just making a joke. It didn't land. It didn't land. I was trying.
Oh shit.
All right, but yeah. The jokes all aside, it does look pretty good.
Yeah. No, I'm really excited about what they're gonna do with Metal Gear. I'm excited about the Max Payne games.
Yeah.
These remakes.
I'm definitely gonna give those remakes a try.
Oh, I would for sure, dude.
Because that was like one of the things that steered me away from the original games. Is like by the time I found out about these games, I already had an Xbox One and it was about to hit Series X. So I was like, okay, these games are probably over a decade old. I'm probably not going to enjoy them that much.
Yeah, because the outdated graphics and things of that nature.
There was one game that I gave the benefit of the doubt because it was like a new it was like an entire generation of gamers, and that was the Mass Effect series. Because like it came out on Xbox One where it was all the games connected, all of them, like all in one package. And it was like $30 for the whole thing.
And you played all of them?
Yes.
What'd you think of them?
I enjoyed them, and I did love how the games that I wish more games did this, where your choices in the previous game matter in the future game.
Yeah.
I think that's such a cool little feature that is very nice.
I thought they were great. I know some people like put them up there as like at least like the first three put them up there as like masterpieces. I never really got I couldn't go quite there, but I thought that from a story perspective, I thought they were great. And actually, dude, who was it in the first three? Shepard?
Yeah,
was
Shepard.
it Shepard? Yeah. I loved a lot of the characters in it. And I know a lot of people felt that Andromeda was a step in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
I personally, I didn't mind it. Yeah, I didn't have like, the characters didn't grab me like the originals.
I think the main reason why it turned off so many people is because it wasn't connected like the other games. I think that was like one of the main reasons why. Because that's what steered me away from it.
Yeah.
I did play for a little bit because it was on Game Pass. So I was like, let me try it out just to see what it's about. And it was all right.
Yeah.
The graphics were great. But like I said, the main reason why I stopped is because it was not connected to the other stories.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's certainly what hurt it for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But let us know, guys, what you think in the comment section down below about Max Payne, the remakes, remakes in general. Love to hear guys' thoughts about in the comment section down below. What remakes are you guys really excited about? Let us know your thoughts. With that down and out of the way, let's move on to this. You know, another franchise, Jeff, that I believe these games, they weren't as, not dating back all the way to Xbox, but they, you know, Xbox 360, and oh man, dude, these games in my mind just got better and better. It was unreal. BioShock. And
yeah.
I just, these games, each one, the first one I was like, I mean, it's all right. Like, I'm like, okay, like, you know, there's things I like about it, things I don't like about it. Second game comes out, I'm like, okay, it's picking up, you know, I'm kind of into this, you know, into the story and everything else. And then when the third game came out for me with Infinite, I don't know what it was about Infinite, but maybe it was going from underwater up to the skies, and or going from Rapture to, what was it, Columbia?
Columbia, yeah.
Columbia. I just loved BioShock Infinite. And at the very end of Infinite, man, I was blown away at the time. I was like, wow, dude, I am so excited for the next iteration of this franchise. And we have not gotten it. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
A lot of things happened where Ken Levine, the creator of BioShock, ends up leaving, I believe it was Irrational Games. He creates his own company, Ghost Story Games. And now Take-Two has gave the green light to Cloud Chamber to create BioShock 4. And Ken Levine, on the flip side, is making a spiritual successor to BioShock in the form of Judas. And Judas looks, have you seen anything about Judas yet?
No, I have not.
Dude, Judas looks unreal.
Is it just called BioShock Judas?
No. It's like a spiritual successor.
Oh, so the game is just called Judas.
Yes. So this is from the mastermind of BioShock. And this game is supposed to be coming out really, I mean, they're talking about it stealth dropping, but there was rumor it was going to come out in March. It looks like it. I think that they're going to want to build this thing, like build some hype around it, but I don't know. Ken Levine, he started his own indie company, Ghost Story Games, and they're creating this game called Judas, which is very much so looks like it looks like BioShock, but they definitely, there's things about it that, I don't know, he might be trying to go a step above what BioShock ever was. And now BioShock being held through Cloud Chamber, there's a lot of rumor, speculation. It's in development hell. It's got a lot of, potential creative differences within the studio. And we know, we've seen this time and time again, whenever a big time creative director leaves a studio or something, doesn't matter whether it's in gaming or movies, it can create massive issues. So I don't know. We have not seen anything about BioShock 4 yet. What was your experience? Like, have you played the BioShock games?
Yes, I have.
Okay. So what were your kind of like your general overall thoughts about the franchise?
Okay, so it started out for me when I played BioShock Infinite because I saw one YouTuber play it and I was like, this game looks like fun. I'm gonna buy it. So I bought it. And with BioShock Infinite, when I first played through it, it was great. I loved the story. It was it did get a little confusing for me because I've never experienced multiverse theory before. Like, that was my first instance of multiverse theory.
Yeah.
So I was confused in some parts where we were kind of hopping through these portals and stuff. And then towards the end, I was just like, what is happening? I was so like confused, but also really happy. And then all of a sudden we're underwater. Like, what's happening here?
Yeah.
And then once I finished that game, I found out that there were 2 games previous. I was like, let me try those ones first. And then maybe if I play these 2 games, I'll understand what's going on. The third one did not help.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, the only connection that I found out was like, oh, I'm staying underwater and I'm in a city called Rapture. And it was a very interesting take on like the thing is with BioShock, it feels very unique. It feels like a mix between like steampunk and like 1940s style art, if you catch my drift.
Yeah.
Like you got all these unique machines, you got the big daddies, you got that a songbird from BioShock Infinite. That thing was nasty.
Yeah.
Just like this big mech bird. I'm like, what is that and why is it trying to kill me?
Yeah.
Go away. But yeah, I do, and I did know that they did make some DLCs for BioShock Infinite that did kind of explain what happens and why the ending of BioShock Infinite happens, and it was better. It was better once you had a little bit more context, and if they do make another one, if it is being made, I'm excited for it, and I will give it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously really concerned about BioShock, just because it's not Ken Levine.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that team.
Yeah.
And when you start hearing that there might be development hell issues, there might be creative differences from Cloud Chamber to the higher ups at Take-Two, I'm certainly concerned about it.
Yeah.
I'm way more excited about Judas because we know that this game is getting close to releasing at some point.
Yeah.
And we're seeing, trailers, we're seeing things about it. And so I'm really excited about that. BioShock is not a franchise for everybody because it's just like you were saying, it's very different in a number of ways. Just like the mechanics it can be very confusing.
The powers, like how they work and all that stuff.
Yeah, it can be very confusing for sure. I remember when I was the very first BioShock when I was playing it, I'm like, at first I was like, I'm not really vibing with this, but I pushed through it, and after getting through it, it's like, I'm not going to put it on it's not like a top 10 game of all time for me, but I appreciated how different and unique of a franchise it is.
That's what I'll say about BioShock. It was a nice feel. Like you don't get that feeling of BioShock from anything else. Even if stuff that has the same theme as steampunk or the 40s aspect, it just felt something special is the best way to describe it.
Yeah. Yep. No, I agree.
Yeah.
Well, guys, let us know in the comment section down below what you all think about BioShock 4, the current state of BioShock. What are your guys' thoughts about that? And if you're a big BioShock fan, are you excited about Judas from Ken Levine and Ghost Story Games? Let us know in the comment section down below and let us know your thoughts. All right, Jeff. Yeah. So this leads us into this next thing, which I know you are super passionate about. One of these games that you play at a very high level, and I'm excited to kind of pick your brain about not just the current state of Overwatch, but also just kind of how it relates to the overall state of even esports. Overwatch, man, what we were talking about BioShock being a really unique game. Overwatch kind of had this, it was very unique when it came out. And obviously there's been other games people kind of compare Overwatch to Marvel Rivals.
Yeah, Battleborn. The game that came out the same day Overwatch did.
Yeah, yeah. Overwatch, for me, I certainly played it. I used to, especially when it first came out, played it a good amount. But I just noticed I sucked at the game. I just wasn't, it wasn't Call of Duty. It wasn't it was just very, it was different in a number of ways, but very unique. What is it about Overwatch that's really grabbed you?
To be honest, I don't know. And I don't know why Overwatch has this grip on me, but I've been playing Overwatch for a very long time, ever since their very first Halloween update. I think the main reason why I probably sticked around as long as I have been is I like the lore that Overwatch has. I love that all these characters have their own lore and backstory and stuff. And there's a story behind there, and it's actually pretty good. And not to mention the characters, they feel unique, especially even some that are stereotypical, for example, Reaper. his whole shtick is he is designed to be in the tank's face 24/7. So it's more of like a, because the way the game is played nowadays, it's quote unquote called Counterwatch, where it's all about tank v tank, especially with the 5v5 situation that's going on right now, where you have the tank versus the tank, and if one tank is outclassing the other, or just the other one, the first tank counters the second one, the second tank's just going to go back to spawn, swap into one that counters it, and then sometimes that just keeps on going and going and going and going. But with what they've been doing recently is actually help stop doing that with the perk system that they added in. Now, this perk system is really interesting. It allows certain characters to do more of what they're good at. For example, I'll say Reaper because I know Reaper the most. Whenever he gets a kill or there's a kill on the field, he can take a soul orb with a straight 50 HP attached to it. His whole stick is self-healing because he can heal off damage and now he can heal off kills. And so with these different perks, you can have certain tanks or certain characters be able to counter the enemy team, and then it's just a clash of perks and skill. Like, it's more about skill nowadays than the character you pick, which is very good.
And did you start with Overwatch 1 and then moved over to 2? Okay.
Yes. There was a time when I stopped playing Overwatch, mainly because like I didn't feel like there was anything coming out. Like there was no new heroes coming out. I did play anytime that like a new hero or like an event was out, but I wasn't like playing competitive that much. And it was at a point where I was like, I'm just done playing Overwatch. And then I hear Overwatch 2 is coming out. I'm like, oh, I'm interested. Count me in. And one of the big problems that people would always say is that what is the difference between Overwatch 1 and Overwatch 2? And the big one is the big and only one is 5v5 versus 6v6. That was one of the only differences that came out when Overwatch transitioned to Overwatch 2, which was kind of annoyed a lot of people because they promised all this PvE stuff, they promised all this other stuff that just never came to fruition. And it was a bit of a disappointment to see some of the stuff not get put out, except for perks. Perks has only been out recently, but it's one of the things they said they wanted to put out, but it took 2 years to do it. I understand that stuff takes time, but I would very much like just a reason why.
And you said you had you play a lot of Overwatch 2,
yes.
right?
Yes,
okay, so you're playing a lot of that. Like,
yeah.
What are you primarily running?
I'm primary healer.
Okay.
Yeah. In my group of friends that I play with, we finally have like a full team. Like, we've never had a full team of people that actually play Overwatch. And I've got my one guy. He's mainly our tank guy, which is fine because you always need a good tank. Like, tank is the leader of the team pretty much. And then you have your 2 damages, which can also put in a lot of work, which we kind of fluctuate who's on damage, but primary is me on support, and if needed, I can swap to a character that just has more hard healing and also can damage, okay, if it's needed. But I primary stick with a character named Zenyatta, who can just put an orb on someone and it will heal them passively. As long as I stay near them, the orb will continue to heal them, and then I can just keep pumping out damage. Not to mention, he has a debuff orb called Discord, which decreases how much damage you do and increases how much damage you take. So a Discord orb can be extremely helpful in like a very close fight.
Okay. Well, that leads me to like Overwatch is, it's a title that I think jumped into similar to the Call of Duty realm. This, we had in Call of Duty, we had the Call of Duty World League, which was the best players on the planet competing against each other. And they brought it into this franchise format. And so now it's called the CDL, or the Call of Duty League. Overwatch kind of were the first ones to start this with the Overwatch League. Do you follow the esports scene at all?
I used to for a little bit, and then not recently. Yeah, I've mainly just been focusing on how I want to progress in competitive
Yeah.
than more focus on what the esports people are doing. I do see that they also did make like some esports related skins that you could buy in the store for like, and they actually had the teams come up with designs for their skins. Like if I believe like if they won like a league champion or something, Overwatch would make them a skin or something like that.
Oh, no way. That's cool.
Yeah, like some of them are really good looking. Like one of the characters, like I said, Zenyatta, he's got like a squid in a jar type situation. It's very unique looking, and it's got the team logo on it and stuff.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of just, I guess this whole thing kind of leads me into like, a lot of people ask us if Animal is going to get involved in esports, and I absolutely want Animal to get into the esports realm. The reality, though, is, you know, it's very expensive to get into. And now, Overwatch League, you know, I think it was around like $20 million to have a team.
Oh shit.
Yeah. And they were able to convince guys like Robert Kraft of like the New England Patriots to buy into a team, which was the Boston Uprising or something.
Yeah.
So a number of these different, you know, big wigs got into Overwatch League as well as the Call of Duty League. And it's changed now. Now it's like, it was kind of basically expressed as a failure. That being these leagues, they just aren't profitable enough. And it leads to like this overarching like issue with esports. I mean, I look at the Overwatch League, for example, on or Overwatch esports on like X, it has over like 500,000 followers. But I think the reality is that so many of these esports aren't like churning enough of a profit for a number of reasons. I think one of the issues is these players are demanding so much money, whereas the organization isn't making enough from merch sales, sponsorships, things of that nature. I think that there's a possibility that there's going to be a big reset in esports. And it does concern me a little bit. Because I love esports so much. I want esports to continue to be like the next sports,
Oh, yeah.
you know? And I think I think there's a possibility that it can absolutely be even bigger than traditional sports.
Yeah.
But I just feel that there's too much, there's a lot of risk and there's not enough return for a lot of these organizations. And so for us with like Animal and stuff, I want to get into it, but it's a little, unless you have significant backing from investor groups and things of that nature, it's not a smart decision to get into esports right now.
Yeah.
And so do you think that from what you know of like the Overwatch League and things and leagues like this, I'm not just really talking about like, you know, your traditional esports. I mean, these like leagues that are being created where, cause like back in the day with Call of Duty, I could go to a tournament, like a LAN tournament. And if we played well enough, we'd have a chance at playing against Crim6, against Scumpy, against some of the best COD players on the planet. Now you can't do that. Now you have to go through what's called challengers. And if you're good enough, you can maybe get into one of these 12 teams within the Call of Duty League. That those are the guys who are playing for Atlanta, playing for, you know, Optic Texas or, you know, like the Vancouver Surge. And so do you have any thought about more specifically Overwatch? Like, are you concerned at all about like these franchise leagues within esports versus more of just having kind of like events that are put on by like the developers or the publishers or by third parties where everyone kind of can get together and compete in this thing? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, for Overwatch specifically, I don't think it's going to be around much longer. I don't, because I understand that people like watching like Overwatch League in general, but it just hasn't been that popular as of late. I do think that it'd be a lot like if they had like instead of like a professional league, they had more of like a starter league where, like you said, it'd be better to have random Joes who are actually pretty decent in the game to actually play. But I don't know a whole lot of the esports league. I do think it has the potential to be the next big thing as far as sports entertainment. I have no doubt in that. I know I've seen enough esports events, at least from like vlogs or people who've went to them. People like this stuff. It has the potential to be the next big thing, like you said. And as far as Overwatch, I don't think it's going to be to around too much longer.
Do you think they should have, well, you were kind of mentioning like a starter league. You think that they should maybe have, do you think they should disband? Because just kind of give you my opinion about
sure.
at least Call of Duty. I believe that the Call of Duty League should end and go back to the Call of Duty World League, where everybody, I just feel like those were the best days of Call of Duty, was when everybody was like, I have a shot. I've got a shot at playing against the best players on the planet.
Yeah.
If we crush it as a team. And you go through the grind, go through the ranks and all that stuff. So I'm actually, even though on paper it sounds cool, like all the Atlanta phase, the Optic Texas, the whatever, but I'm like, hey, bro, we're not there yet.
No.
It's not there yet.
No.
And so I feel like, even though I'm not really versed with Overwatch League, I've watched it certainly, but I just feel like it needs to be more open season where everybody gets a shot at playing against the best players in the world.
Yeah, that I agree with. I think it'd be interesting to see like what random Joes can come up with, because you never know how good someone is, and they could be anywhere. Like these hidden talents could just be anywhere, and tournaments like that or events like where it's pretty much like, I wouldn't say open to the public because you gotta have a fee for it, because you gotta make money on this. Like it's as simple as that. Oh, sorry. But yeah, it's I agree with you that there should be like an openness to it.
Do you think that there's been a lot of talk about Marvel Rivals getting into esports?
Yeah.
And obviously we talked, how a lot of people are comparing this to like Overwatch and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think that Marvel Rivals should go down this route of, because they got to be really, I mean, I just, just by seeing the Overwatch League, the Call of Duty League, all like these franchise leagues that we're seeing, you got to deal with this stuff really delicately. And do you think that Marvel Rivals should get into the esports realm? Do you think it's there yet? And if so, what route do you think they should maybe go down?
So specifically with Marvel Rivals, I think it's too early to tell, because they're only in their first quote unquote season with their I'm just gonna say, because their seasonal system, they're only still in their first season. The game hasn't even been around for, I want to say, I don't know, 4 or 5 months, barely half a year.
Yeah.
I still think I do think there is potential, without a shadow of a doubt, because of just how much people are liking this and how much people are taking seriously the competitive system of it. I think it does have potential to be at like a league level, but I just don't think it's there yet.
Yeah, I agree. I
just think it's too early to say anything with Marvel Rivals. I do see like where people say like Marvel Rivals and Overwatch are very similar. They are. I'm not going to deny that fact, but it just seems too early.
I agree. Yeah. You don't want to. I think
you don't want to rush this. You really don't.
Yeah, you want to build an ecosystem within the game. And I've always been a firm believer in content. Like,
yes,
I believe that people within the community creating content around this thing, like whatever game it is. I just think about Call of Duty. Call of Duty players, some of them are the most popular esports players on the planet because they create content on YouTube. They're streaming consistently. You see other games like League of Legends, which is way bigger than COD, but then you see the COD players and they're way bigger than everybody in League, maybe minus Faker. So I think that it's all about content. I think that you have to build a sustainable ecosystem. And I'm not saying that NetEase doesn't have the money to throw at something.
No.
I just don't want to see them jump into something and then it's
Crash and burn.
crash and burn.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And I just think this with a lot of esports. I mean, we're seeing some struggles with Halo. We're seeing struggles with Gears of War. The Gears Esports League, it doesn't exist now. Maybe it will with E-Day. I'm not sure. But it's like, you gotta take, and I this really comes down to also the players within these games that are playing it at the highest level. We're not at a point where it's like traditional sports. You can't just show up and compete. It's like, yes, it's about winning, but at the same time, it's like you have to build a brand so that you have people that want to watch the Gears esports because they want to watch you. And that helps the scene grow. Call of Duty did this perfectly, where they had superstars that streamed and created content, and the scene continued to grow. And you could argue that Call of Duty should be one of the biggest games in the world from an esports perspective, and it's not. It's not up there with Dota. It's not up there with League. But the players are like superstars when you look at the overall landscape of esports. So I just think that there's got to be some pressure on the players too to be streaming and creating content for sure. And so with Marvel, I wouldn't mind seeing it. I agree with you. I just don't think it's there yet.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Marvel with specific, especially the clashing that has people saying things about Marvel and Overwatch, like the clashing between players is honestly disgusting. I don't like it. People should just play games just to enjoy them, not hate on somebody or hate on an entirely different game just because they play it over the other one. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah,
100%. But let us know, guys, in the comment section down below. What do you guys think about Overwatch 2 and the current state of esports? Love to hear your guys' thoughts about this down there, and I would love to hear your thoughts about it. With that down and out of the way. Another game, Jeff, that we haven't had the opportunity to talk about, we've talked about it off camera, is Gears of War.
Yeah.
And both of us are, we're excited about the future of what Gears could potentially, with E-Day and where that could be going. I want to talk to specifically, though, in this segment about something else within Gears of War that there's been a lot of talk about. It has not been confirmed yet, but a Gears of War collection. And Gears of War, guys, is one of, my favorite franchises of all time. I love Gears. I'm passionate about it. That's
probably one of the more iconic franchises in video game history. Oh,
I absolutely love it. The collection obviously would be, like a full-blown remaster or whatever you want to call it, Marcus Phoenix collection of the trilogy, leading us. A lot of people it's rumored to be coming out later this year. And then Gears of War E-Day comes out the following year. So the collection would kind of quench our thirst for Gears of War before Gears of War E-Day next year. Well, it was really interesting, and I want to get your take on this because there has been a lot of talk about the collection on X, on social media, Reddit, on different forums. And I took a screenshot of a thread between a couple of people. Ches Corden, he is a very popular reporter when it comes to pretty much all things Xbox, but he really reports on a lot of things just gaming, and he's pretty accurate on a lot of different things. There was a guy who reached out to him on X. His name was Milky. He said that there's rumors about the Gears of War collection, and Ches goes, "What's the rumor?" And there's a guy, his name's Those Nerdy Guys. He goes, "No multiplayer. The source doesn't exactly inspire confidence, though." And Ches says, "Actually, I too have heard no multiplayer."
Interesting.
Which I wanted to talk to you about this because, and it's not even so much the collection not having multiplayer, because maybe they just want to remaster the original, the stories, right?
Yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily mean
no co-op. That doesn't mean no co-op.
Correct.
That just probably means no PvP.
So, right. So maybe you can still do horde mode or something, maybe beast mode.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. What this is really creating, though, is an interesting narrative as to, well, if they don't have it in the collection, does this mean they don't have it in E-Day?
That
And
is a good question.
and so now, look, guys, we take all this stuff with a pinch of salt. Ches Corden is, he's very like great at what he does. He's not confirming that it's not in there, but he's saying he's hearing things and he's hearing that it's not in there. Jeff, what would be your thoughts about a collection? Let's just start there. A collection of Gears of War, one of these, most iconic franchises, at least in Xbox history.
Oh yeah.
You'd say, I mean, you have Halo and Gears
and Forza
and maybe Fable. But it's kind of like 1A, 1B. You want to put like Gears and Halo up there. Well, first of all, like what's your history with Gears?
So I've only played Gears 3.
Okay.
I've only played Gears 3 because it came with my Xbox.
Okay.
When I bought my Xbox One, I got like some special deal where it came with Gears of War 3 on it. And I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. And I had a friend of mine who was really into like the Gears like story and into Gears in itself. And he kind of just explained to me, he's like, hey, this is what happened. If you have any questions about like the lore, just feel free to ask me. Like, hey, this is this guy. There's Dom. So it was a nice instance of just like having someone who knew what was going on, because I was a little confused. And then he explained it. I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But I did enjoy it. I think my favorite thing was just how unique the weapons are.
Mm-hmm. It's different.
Yeah, besides the tomatoes. But the iconic rifle with the chainsaw on the end of it, it's just iconic. Like as soon as you see it, like, oh, that's the Gears weapon. You know it from just by looking at it.
Yeah. Did you get to dabble in the multiplayer at all?
Not really. I did play a little bit of the multiplayer, but once someone explained like how to win always by just spamming left and right between the cover, I'm like, okay, that's just abusing game mechanics. I don't like that.
Yeah. The Dr. Disrespect always said like he didn't like Gears because it was like, why am I going to play a game where I'm sticking here, sticking to this wall, sticking to that wall, and you're like going back and forth. Like he talked a lot of shit about it. And so I understand like it's a different kind of multiplayer.
Yeah.
But again, we talk about games that like don't need multiplayer. I look at Gears and I'm like, okay, this game was built on multiplayer. Mm-hmm. Yes, a great story. Would not playing the other, couple like the other number of games that have come out within Gears of War's history. Would you be concerned if a game that had basically multiplayer in every single title, they come out with a collection, but they don't bring multiplayer back to that collection? Would you be concerned about it if it was just going to be like a story narrative driven experience?
So with you saying that, I don't think it'd be that much of a problem, only because the reason why I say is because I don't know the multiplayer all that too well. But you got to think about, if you do have a collection, why not have a multiplayer that's connected to all three of the connections? Like you get all the Gears games 1 through 4, and then there's a multiplayer that's attached to that.
Like separate.
Yeah, separate, basically.
Oh shit, that's a good idea.
That's not, it's because it's still, because with Gears specifically, having each individual game have their each individual multiplayer, not to mention that's going to kill how many servers you got to keep up, how much it'd just be a pain to have all those 3 games from a collection have 3 different multiplayer servers.
100%.
So why not just have a multiplayer that was connected to all 3 of them?
Right. I agree.
Like I can just picture like a menu, like as soon as you load in the collection, you got the the icons of all 3 of the games, and then off to the side you got the multiplayer one.
And they like take the best maps from like...
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I was about to bring that up. Why not just grab the best maps and the best characters from all the games and put them on a multiplayer?
Right.
Map. I think that's that's where I can see a perfect way to go it. Are they going to do that? Who knows?
Yeah. I love that though. I think that's great.
Good,
Okay, so let's look at the future with Gears of War E-Day. Are you planning on playing E-Day?
Depends. If I can have a buddy with if it's on Game Pass, I probably will play it. And if I have a buddy of mine, I'll probably play it even more. But yeah,
I'll be your buddy. You and me go slap some people.
Hey, maybe we'll stream it.
Yeah, 100%, dude.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is really actually tough for me because I don't really know how to react to this narrative going around that E-Day's not going to have multiplayer. It's hard for me to kind of wrap my brain around because I'm so used to Gears having a multiplayer. But I brought up like Gears esports shut down. It has not existed. I mean, you have Gears 5 and, you know, they had esports with Gears 5, but then, you know, after a number of years, they shut it down to really just kind of focus on
the game itself.
Gears of War E-Day and whatever. So I like, at least for me, even though it's like really hard, a game like we talked about Cyberpunk, it doesn't need multiplayer, right? It doesn't. Like, I mean, would it be cool? Sure.
Yes.
But co-op, like we were talking about, would be awesome with Cyberpunk. With Gears, I'm like, okay, if the Coalition came to me and said, Josh, like, here's the deal, man. If we get multiplayer and like it starts to falter, starts to, you know, not do really well, and we're paying for these servers, Microsoft is going to force us to shut down Gears for good, and we're not going to get another Gears game. I would be like, all right, dude, like, story it is, and that's it. Horde mode, I'm down. Let me play with my buddies. Let's go, like, let's go crush some shit with co-op. Like, make more Gears games. Make like, you know, DLC or whatever. I would be totally down with that. If that's the mindset, like, look, man, multiplayer
has just not been hitting the same.
It's not hitting the same.
Yeah. I can see their reasonings why. And as long as, because the thing is, multiplayer and co-op, you could have one or the other. It's just such a pain when you have both. Because then you have to have servers dedicated to co-op, servers dedicated to multiplayer. And obviously, there's going to be players who like more than the other. So it's more of the fact, like, what are you willing to sacrifice to make the other one work?
Yeah.
And with Gears multiplayer specifically, don't get me wrong, it's fun. I've had a couple funny moments with both co-op and multiplayer, but I will probably say I've had more fun with co-op than multiplayer.
I love doing Horde mode. I would love to see an extension of Horde mode.
I think Horde modes in any Horde shooter are so much fun. And that brings up that Space Marines 2 is going to have a Horde mode soon.
Really?
Yes.
No way.
I'm excited for that.
That's sick, dude. I love that game. I got, like, you know what? I haven't actually like purchased it. I gotta buy it, dude.
It's so much fun. Like, it's just mindless slaughter, and it's it gives you Doom feels.
Does it give you Gears feels at all?
No.
Okay.
Because you feel more powerful in
Space Marine?
In Space Marines,
no way.
But at higher difficulties, you feel fragile.
Yeah, no,
like, you can get deleted so fast in the higher difficulties, like, to the point where, and I'm very happy that the players picked up on this, is save the stims for people who actually need it and don't hoard it all for yourself. I'm very happy that people have done that instead of like saying, hey, I don't need this stim, you can have it because I know because you're low on HP. Usually I'd avoid the stims for other people who actually need it, because the way I play the Immortal Heavy, as I like to call it, I heal off of damage, so I just don't worry about stims. I can go down, it's if I get overwhelmed or I get sniped, but most of the times if I'm dealing with ads, I don't go down. And not to mention, I got a perk where if I'm the last one standing, my gun doesn't overheat.
Yeah. I think the reality is that you don't have to have multiplayer in order to have a great game. And I think that Gears, even though I've grown up with it being multiplayer only, if you were to tell me, hey, dude, like, this is what's going to get us to make more of these games, and it's to have no multiplayer, but great, rich stories, exciting co-op that you can play with your friends, I'm all in for it, dude.
Oh, yeah.
All in.
Yeah.
Let us know what you guys think, though, in the comment section down below about that. I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. Gears has such a history of multiplayer, as well as, you know, just being like a full package with campaign, multiplayer, co-op. Love to hear your guys' thoughts about it in the comment section down below. Let us know your thoughts. that down, guys. Last but not least, our last topic, Jeff, on this episode of the Dark Zone, a game that is my favorite PlayStation exclusive of all time. And actually, my two favorite PlayStation exclusives ever are from the same developer. One is Uncharted, the other The Last of Us.
Yeah.
I absolutely love The Last of Us. But what I want to talk to you about with this, got a little bit of some unfortunate news, at least for the time being, with The Last of Us Part 3. A lot of people want this game, myself included, at least to round out a trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
Neil Druckmann, the creative director over at Naughty Dog, said that there's a pretty good chance that they will not make a Last of Us Part 3.
Yeah,
and
I
this
heard
just,
about that. That's a shame.
Yeah. And I don't love it at all. I think any developer that's going to, obviously they want to keep the creative juices flowing, and I totally understand you want to work on other titles. If you stay too long, you overstay your welcome. I get it. But man, dude, from the first game to the second game, I mean, it was just outdoing itself. And maybe they thought,
yeah.
I wonder if they thought, hey, we can't top 2. But to me, it's like, well, now you're going to go with Intergalactic. And I'm not saying that I'm against that. I love that they're trying something different. But
yeah, a new IP always brings in something new to the table.
Yeah, it does. But man, The Last of Us.
The Last of Us is so good. It was one of the only reasons why I got my PS3.
Bro, and I'm like, I mean, what, you're going to leave the story like that?
Yeah, like there's
like, I mean, what about Abby and versus Ellie? Like,
yeah.
I mean, where we, like, come on. Like,
and I was so sad at myself because I stopped playing Last of Us 2 for a minute, and I don't know why. I never brought myself to ask the question why. And because I think the reason why it felt a little long, but then as soon as I jumped back in to play it, I was done within an hour.
Yeah. It is so good, dude.
It is so good. Oh my God.
I had a buddy of mine, didn't play the game, but what he did was, there's some YouTube channels where they'll take all the cinematics from a game and they'll just put it into like almost a movie.
Yeah.
He told me, he's like, Josh, you know what? I didn't play The Last of Us. He doesn't really play games. But he's like, I watched it. It's one of the greatest stories I ever saw.
Oh, yeah. One of the most well-written stories with such memorable characters and events. Even in the first game was just... I cannot forget a single scene from that game. That cutscene that wasn't... like it felt like it was literally a book brought to life. I know it was, but...
yeah.
It just felt like it was just... or better yet, can think of it as a movie.
Yeah.
It's like a movie, but in game. It's the same feeling I had with God of War when that came out. It just felt like I was watching a movie.
Yeah. It was so good, man. I just, if they, and like, I'm not going to judge a studio based on like, oh, we don't want to do The Last of Us. We want to do Intergalactic because it's going to keep our creative juices flowing. But if they just did it because, almost out of spite for the community, because it's such a ravenous fan base, and we both know just how controversial things were about The Last of Us Part 2 especially.
Yeah.
To me, though, man, it's like kind of, if that was what it was, you didn't want to deal with the adversity at hand, because I'm sure the idea with 3, because I'm sure that there was concepts of The Last of Us Part 3.
Yeah.
And maybe some of it was very...
mixed.
There was adversity that they knew was coming, but if they didn't run towards that adversity and they ran away from it, man, dude, talk about a soft generation.
Yeah, I don't know. If the thing is with situations like that is you could throw caution to the wind and just make something beautiful, or you could hold back out of fear of, because of way people think it's not going to do well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same thing with a lot of games nowadays, that they try to, I wouldn't say push a narrative, but just kind of like impose how they think, and it makes a game feel, I wouldn't say gatekeepy, but more of just, it feels like you're fighting against the people you play, the people who play the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because even like when we watched the Intergalactic trailer,
Yeah.
there were a lot.
was
I'm excited about it too.
Yeah,
but
I was
there was backlash about that.
I
You
was like,
know?
why?
There just people talking about the main character, the way
Who
she
cares?
looks. I agree, and so they're already facing adversity as it is with Intergalactic, more than likely.
Yeah.
And so it's like, dude, The Last of Us, man. I'm not saying that you've got to make 20 of those games. I'm saying, dude, just make one. Like,
Just
round this thing out.
At least round it out. You
Like-
don't need to make a 5-part series. At least make it a trilogy.
Yeah, you don't have to do what you did with Uncharted.
Yeah.
You can round it out, dude. And because I like The Last of Us more than Uncharted. Uncharted was my favorite PlayStation exclusive until The Last of Us, and I was so hooked on it. And then when The Last of Us Part 2 came out, I just was so blown away by what they did. Maybe Neil Druckmann is just clickbaiting everybody, and after it's all said and done, after Intergalactic comes out, then here comes The Last of Us Part 3, because we know that they're working on the show.
Mhm.
What is it, season 2?
Season 2, yeah.
Yeah, season 2, and so that should be coming out here shortly. But that would be funny if he did that just to kind of troll the community.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. If it's true that they're not going to do
A Last of Us 3, that'd be just disappointing.
Yeah,
It'd just be
man.
disappointing.
Yeah, just
I did think The Last of Us 2, between one, it was very different to see two opposing characters that you play against, because at the end of the day, you don't want to see each of them lose, because you're both invested in both of them, because you are playing both of them.
Yeah.
When you play as Ellie, I guarantee, I understand why people like probably side towards Ellie a lot more of what Abby did, which was very gruesome and very heartbreaking to see that scene. But at the end of the day, you get to see her reasoning why, which is also a great thing that I don't think a lot of games do, is that they don't explain why the villain did this. And I think that was a very interesting way to show it, especially with Abby.
I thought it was, yeah. I just thought, man.
Like, you never thought about that until like you saw the flashback.
Yeah. And I just felt, man, like the first game was just so much about like survival. And
yeah.
But like the different emotions that you see within these games. I mean, we talked about the second one being like pain and suffering.
Revenge.
What do you do with pain, suffering, revenge?
Yeah.
And that first game was, the journey.
The bond that Ellie and Joel share. Like
friendship. But it was.
I wouldn't even call friendship. I would call like more of like a father-daughter situation.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah. Yeah. Like,
because Joel lost his kid day one of the virus, and that's sad. That's such a sad scene.
I guess I was thinking about the Left Behind, the DLC.
Yeah, it's a good DLC.
But yeah, no, I think the journey was like the payoff of like just like seeing this journey and where it kind of unfolded, and then in the second one, just the reaction to pain, suffering, revenge. They're just so great from a narrative perspective.
Yeah. One of my favorite scenes from the second game, and it mirrored another scene from another zombie type game. It was when Ellie had a dream about Joel, and it was actually, it wasn't more of like a memory, but it was more of like Joel was actually there. And it was such a good scene because you get to see like how much she really cared about him and saw him as such a father figure. And the only other scene that I can think of that brought that same type of emotion was in the Telltale Games Walking Dead final game where you play as Clementine. There is a scene where she's on the brink of death. She passes out. She wakes up on the train from the first game, and she's talking to Lee. And I was just like, there's no way they just decide to stab you in the heart like that, man. That was such a good scene to cap off an amazing series.
I didn't play that. I didn't get a chance
it's a
to.
4-part game series with I think 4 to 5 episodes per game.
Yeah, I started it. I started with the first one, but I didn't.
They did make a collection type game where it's all the previous games together, and then you have the final game that's separate.
Okay, so it's worth playing.
Oh, 100%.
Because I was never. Or are you a fan of The Walking Dead?
The show or the games?
The show, the show.
The show, I was more partial to a show called Z Nation, which was more of just like zombies but funny. Like it was basically just The Walking Dead but funny.
Okay.
There was a lot of comedy aspects in it. The whole point of the show is that there's this group of people that are trying to get from New York to California, and they gotta walk because they have this guy who's immune to the virus, so they have to get him to a lab that's in California.
Okay.
It's a funny story. There's like one episode, there's this one character named Doc who he's like your typical herbal doctor is the best way to describe him. To the point where there's this special type of plant called Z-weed, where it's weed that's been grown in compost made of zombies.
Really?
Yeah, you would think that cause an infection. Apparently, it just makes you stoned out your mind. And the thing is, it also works on zombies. That was like one of the funniest things. Like he was stuck in an air vent, tangled up in wires with another zombie. So he just lights one up and just blows the smoke in the zombie's face, and it actually calms down to the point where it's not trying to kill him.
That is fucking good, dude.
Yeah, it's such a funny show. I love it. But yeah,
I had a hard time. I liked The Walking Dead in the beginning. The first probably the first season. But probably part of the reason why I didn't play the games is or I did, but I was kind of similar to the show. I started it, but then I didn't finish it.
There was one game that was based off of the show where you actually play as Daryl, and from what I hear, it did not do good.
I don't. What was it?
I think it was like Walking Dead Road Trip or something like that.
Okay.
I can't remember the actual name of it. I played maybe a couple hours of it because I didn't like it that much. But because the problem is it came out around the same time as The Walking Dead from Telltale. Those guys cooked, and they rode that horse until it died, and it died at the perfect time. They didn't try to overkill it. They didn't try to bleed as much as it could out of it. They let it die at the perfect time. And then they focused on other stuff, like their other titles called The Wolf Among Us, which that game is amazing without a shadow. It's such a take on old fairy tales like Rapunzel, The Three Little Pigs. Just think of all those fairy tale characters living in a city in the Bronx. Just like every fairy tale character on crack, pretty much. You play as Bigby, aka the big bad wolf from The Three Little Pigs or Red Riding Hood.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and you may interact with some other characters like Snow White, Beauty and the Beast, just all these different fable characters.
Huh.
And it's such like a dark and grisly feel to like such an iconic, more kids focused. Like if it's, for example, if you watched Beauty and the Beast as a kid and then you saw The Wolf Among Us shortly after, you'd be terrified.
Yeah.
You get to see like a bunch of characters. Like you see Bloody Mary too. She's fucking terrifying.
Really?
She's scary. She's generally scary.
Wow. I guess my biggest beef with The Walking Dead was like I just felt like it failed to evolve in a way that
felt fresh.
Like, I'll give you an example. Like, after the first season, I'm like, okay, let's see what, happens. As we're going through the second season, I'm like, man, dude, nothing's changing. And what I mean by that is like, I didn't like that it just didn't feel like there was a variety of like zombies. Like, why are they all walkers? Why aren't there runners? Why are there no zombie dogs or zombie horses? And like, I just felt like there was like this lack of innovation. And I also I love Daryl. But what was the cop in the beginning? Sean or what?
Yeah, I know who you're
The
talking
one who
about.
died really early on.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
plays like the Punisher and stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, man, dude, why did he die off? And then Rick, I just never bought into Rick as the main guy. I don't know why. I just didn't. I always thought maybe like Daryl or one of these other guys should have been the main guy. Anyways, The Walking Dead was a really interesting concept that I felt was there was a lack of innovation.
Yeah.
Because I loved like World War Z. Did
Yes.
you ever see that? Like, these guys are all out like running, like sprinting at you, and they're
didn't
zombies.
see the movie, but I played the game.
Yeah, the game's kind of similar. Like it was just like this horde.
Fun fact: the same guys who made the Z Nation game, they put their tech into Space Marines.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they put like their horde tech.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
Love
like,
that.
Yeah, they got that was like the cool thing with the World War Z video game is that there was thousands of zombies on screen at once, and it would not lag your game.
Yeah, it was.
I don't know
sick.
how they did it, but it works, and they did the same thing with Space Marines, which I thought was very good.
That's
But yeah,
awesome.
the thing is, what you were saying with Walking Dead is there was no variety between the zombies. That's why I like World War Z, because there's so many
Same.
different. There's not World War Z. Well, yeah, is it World War Z? But also with Z Nation.
Z Nation.
Z Nation's got a bunch of different types of zombies, like, and it makes sense on how they got that way. Like, there was one plant one that was basically a zombie that was planted inside a plant, and it kind of just grew around it to the point where it was able to control the plants in some weird way. It was weird. Then you have these they quote unquote called blasters, which was there was a nuke in one point in the show, and it blew up in a decently city-wide area. And the zombies that survived it became these blasters. They were fast. When I say fast, they could outrun cars.
Really?
Yes, there's one scene where you see a bunch of blasters trying to chase down a semi-truck, and they literally rip open the door and start munching on the driver. It's gnarly.
Did you ever see The Strain?
No.
Okay.
But
My brother was really into that, and I know like they canceled that after I forget how many seasons. But anyway,
and another underrated use of zombies is zombie animals. There's zombie animals in Z Nation. Hell, one of them is a zombie bear.
yeah,
That thing is terrifying.
I just felt like I was like, man, dude, I really wish I was in the writer's room for The Walking Dead, because I'm like, bro, like there's just a lack of innovation. Like on the flip side, you got like American Horror Story, and they're doing all kinds of crazy
shit.
like, I'm like, dude, I would love to hear what they talk about. Like, dude, those guys are like, dude, their minds, Ryan Murphy and them.
I guarantee they just sit in a room all day and just talk about what would be the most weird and fucked up shit they could probably figure out.
For sure, 100%, dude.
Yeah. I remember watching a couple episodes. I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, dude, it's The Walking Walking Dead, but American Horror Story is another. I mean, that is a whole nother story for another day.
Yeah.
But listen, guys, I really appreciate all of you for joining us for this episode of The Dark Zone. I would love to hear guys' thoughts about The Last of Us Part 3, what your thoughts about what we're hearing so far about it not ever coming out. I'd love to hear your thoughts about it in the comment section down below.
Yeah.
Jeff, I appreciate you, man. How can people find you?
They can still find me on my Twitch channel, JTheK0518. I'll probably be streaming on every Thursday, maybe occasionally on Mondays, but most likely every Thursday I'll be streaming, which I'm probably going to stream after this.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I really appreciate all of you. Definitely check out Jeff and his Twitch. It will be linked in the description down below. I really thank all of you for joining us for this episode of The Dark Zone. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure that you leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, stay positive, just keep grinding. And as always, I'll see you guys all in the next one.
Y'all take care now.
Peace out.